you've been drugging me this whole time. I'm going to flip the script. I'm going to start drugging you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to No Drama, Just Movies. We are back this week with another movie review. This time, we are reviewing none other than Blink Twice. Now, this is the directorial debut of the most beautiful Zoe Kravitz. I'm sorry, I just had to listen. When this video goes out, we'll have a picture up here with Zoe Kravitz as I'm speaking right now, because that woman is just absolutely beautiful. But she's also talented and beautiful, because she has just released her directorial debut in Blink Twice. My name is Cameron Kelly Smith. I am joined by my esteemed colleague, the one, the only
Phil.
I mean, there we go. I mean, it was a bit delayed this week, boy, but I mean, Zoe Kravitz will do that to you. She will do that to you. But yeah, so we are here this week to review Blink Twice. Now, as I said, this is the directorial debut of Zoe Kravitz. Obviously, her most notable role was as Catwoman in Matt Reeves' The Batman, which is an absolutely lovely movie, but we'll get to that in a few weeks, actually. So Blink Twice, I'm going to simply throw it to you immediately. What did you like about this movie? What's your first initial thoughts?
Assuming I liked it. I did actually like it. I did actually like some of the tension at the beginning. It reminded me a lot of Get Out. Just for that slow tension. We know something's going on here, and we don't know what it is exactly, but we know something is wrong. It does drag on just a little bit, I think, at the beginning, but it does turn around towards the end. But we get into the nitty-gritty, but weak spots somewhere, so I didn't love it, but I liked it more than I thought I would.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. When you go in to watch a psychological thriller, which this movie falls into that bracket, or at least a psychological mystery thriller, you always are intrigued from the get-go, because you want to know what is actually going on. Is what is being presented to you true? Is it not true? How much of it is true? What's happening? Am I guessing right? Looking for clues. And that's always fun, from the get-go, when you go into any movie of this kind. And this movie in Blink Twice did have elements of that for me, where it did make me go, what's actually going on here? I wonder what's really happening. Is that a clue that links to here? And so that was fun. I do agree with you. I think that it does take a while to get going, but when it gets going, it did have my attention. And I do think that this is probably, I can see this being a movie I think that a lot of people, will actually enjoy. When, we literally just came back from watching it a few hours ago, and at least the row behind us, they seemed very intrigued in what was going on. Very much so intrigued. And so, yeah, I think that if you're looking for a movie that is that psychological mystery, then this is it for you. However, now that we've both said our initial thoughts, we should probably go into it. And I'll start in a sense, but I'm going to be very harsh. This movie is an hour and 42 minutes. I think that the first hour of this movie, and let me actually be honest, I don't even know if I'm timing it right, but it felt like it was an hour. Literally up until the point where things really start to break down and it starts to really get revealed to us what's going on, and it starts to reach its climax. To me, at least, it felt like an hour before we got there. And I felt like that first hour was absolutely boring. I felt that literally I was sitting there just watching a group of people party. And for anyone who doesn't know, if you're checking out this review and you hadn't seen the movie, essentially the synopsis of this movie is that Channing Tatum essentially plays this, what is he, a tech CEO?
A tech billionaire CEO, yeah.
Yeah, long story short, he basically gathers a whole lot of people to his island, to his private island, including the main character called Frida. and her friend, and they basically go and join them on this private island. What seems like just a lovely getaway trip turns into something that's actually a bit more dark and sinister. And so, from the moment that they arrive on the island to literally until it reaches the climax, for me, it was very boring. I felt like I was just watching people having a party. I literally said to you that the most fun part about this movie for me in that first hour is there's a scene where they take psilocybin and MDMA. And all I was thinking is, well, I mean, if I was at this party or right now, I could do with a bit myself because yeah, it was a little bit boring. And I felt like we had this conversation after the movie, but I felt like this was a movie where you have a great idea and you have an idea that is really making you go, yeah, this is something that we can really put onto screen and put onto paper first and foremost, and it'd be a really interesting idea. But it felt like one of those ideas where it translated. It's not to say that it didn't translate well over into being a screenplay, but that it fell apart in that transition. And that when it went onto paper, the screenplay, I would say, was not as compelling maybe as the idea must have felt initially. I'm just making an assumption, because obviously I wasn't there when this movie was being developed. I mean, I would have loved to have been in the presence of Zoe Kravitz, but obviously I wasn't. And so, yeah, it does give that impression that this movie was something that started as a great idea, but then pen to paper, it didn't actually translate very well.
I do agree that the beginning dragged on a bit. Like I said, it's a bit slow. It gets a bit slow, but there's still moments of tension. I think there's still like some clues as to there's something else going on. Like there was an image. They have chickens on the island basically, and there was an image where cut that out. There's a scene where the chef runs around and tries to catch a chicken that's escaped, and he there's a close up on the chicken, and he grabs it, and and we immediately cut to the women in their white dresses running through the night, basically. And I don't know if that's a scene where they go, I don't know what we're running from or something. But it's that image, that juxtaposition of these two images where we think, oh, like they're the chickens. They're like the livestock, basically. Which made me wonder if this is kind of like a hunting humans for sport or something like that. So there's definitely something, at least Channing Tatum's character, King, Mr. King, I can't remember his first name, that has this island and he invites people just to have fun with them in the most brutal way. And can we get into spoilers yet?
I think it's necessary, especially with where you're going right now.
So we found out that yes, there's definitely that going on. So they're essentially drugging the ladies, so they forget what's happened before. I like the reveal of that because it comes in a very gruesome scene, and it does become very, very uncomfortable towards I think it's around 40 minutes to go or something. And as harrowing as that it is, I kind of enjoyed the storytelling there because it does give you that emotion of just disgust.
Yeah.
I think, once you find out what's happening. But yeah, you're right. I did want, once that's out in the open, I did want something more from the ladies. I think it goes very quickly into let's hide that we know, at least for the main Frida and her a different friend or different lady at that point.
Yeah.
It goes very quickly into let's hide that we know, rather than okay, here's the information, let's find out a little bit more, or let's see how we can, steps. Can we get off the island? Can we do anything against this poison? Can we fight back against these guys? So I think I wanted a little bit more build up for that, and that might have made it a little bit more interesting. and kept the story going a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with you in terms of the build up, because once Frida and her other friend find out, or they both come to the realization that they're beginning to get their memory back and they're beginning to remember how, at least not necessarily how they got to the island, but what's been happening to them at the island, and actually remembering the secrets of this island and what Channing Tatum's character, Mr. King, has been doing. Once you get to that part, the movie really starts to get going. But then that's when I needed a bit more. And when I mean by more, what I could have did with at that point was, and I mentioned this to you, I would have liked to have a more of an insight into how this all started, how Mr. King and the rest of his comrades started this. I don't want to call it a scheme, but started this. What they were doing on this island. How this came about, and specifically why. And the why can take you down a rabbit hole, because sometimes you don't need necessarily an explanation as to why, but you have these, what we're led to believe are millionaires, billionaires, who take these women onto this island and who physically, emotionally, sexually abuse these women for seemingly their own pleasure. And I'm not going to say that, because that takes it into a different conversation in terms of if people are capable of doing this without a reason. But for the sake of the movie, I felt that the plot would have helped, at least for me, if we started to get just a bit more of an understanding as to why we're doing this, why they're doing this, and how this came about. Simply because I felt like it would have made it more compelling. I made the example to you that, in like a Squid Game, for example, Squid Games, excuse me, when, you find out, that it's the elites that are all, gathering together to do the games. It just makes it a little bit more intriguing, like how this came about. I would have liked to just have seen how it came about, why it came about. If, we have another character in there called Rich, which I can't remember what his actual role was, but it kind of was giving the impression that him and Mr. King, they worked together, or that they had some kind of relationship there, because obviously then we fast forward to the final scene of the movie where, it's shown that Frida is now the CEO of his company, and she's, flipped the script on him. And you see Rich there, and he's very shocked to realize what has happened. But that, for example, was another example of me going, I would have loved to have seen how Rich and Mr. King met. What was their relationship? Were they the ones that created this? Was there a reason why? And speaking of reason why, is like, obviously, Mr. King, Channing Tatum's character, does express at certain parts of the movie that, part of the reason why he enjoys this idea of having people forget or lose their memories because of trauma that he suffered as a child. And he references in a scene about, his father. And so that was interesting, but it wasn't really built upon. And I think that it could have been very interesting to build upon it, especially where we're then led to believe, like, for example, with Frida, like that. So she had been on this island already before. However, she didn't realize that at the time. But was that in a completely different time period, or is that the same time period? However, she just hasn't been able to remember. Like, I felt like there were just holes that if you filled them in a little bit, it could have been much more intriguing. But we got what we got. And those last 40 minutes, I got to admit, like, they were fun. They were really exhilarating to watch. It did feel like this is what I wanted. Yeah.
But yeah, when you say we need more of the backstory, the why, I thought, because it's a film obviously about like Me Too movement and like powerful men, I guess, rich men abusing, and we have like drugs, like date rape drugs, similar things. I guess it stayed very much on the side of the women. And even there's one young man included who's actually on the side of the victims, and we see like a flashback, or a memory, I guess, of the other people remembering him being a victim, but we never actually get to see him remembering it. So we never see his side of, shit, I've been, sexually or physically abused. What do I do with that? So it doesn't actually explore the male side of that. And as a victim, and like you said, it doesn't explore the male side of the abusers, which I guess in our time might be interesting to see. Like, how
Mm,
does this start? And like you said, like, how did these people come together, and how did they decide, let's, buy an island and make it a little rape paradise? Um, I don't know how you would have done that, because I think that's a much longer film.
mm.
Or it would have to, like, it would need a lot of tweaking, but to kind of show a bit more rounded exploration of this topic, I think might have been interesting to see. You're right.
I agree. Yeah, and I think that's the thing as well. I'll be very intrigued to see, like, to you maybe look up some clips or look up some interviews to see what Zoe Kravitz herself mentions in terms of like what she is trying to say with the movie. I did read a quote where she expressed that it was kind of a bit open to the audience's interpretation to kind of take away what she thinks she was trying to say, especially as we reach the ending of the movie. But I would be very intrigued to see what she is trying to say, because I feel like we get bits of it in this movie, but it's not as clear cut. And maybe she's not necessarily trying to say something. I don't feel like, and this is going to be a controversial take, but I don't feel like with every piece, whether it be film or theater, for example, or TV, that it always has to have necessarily a message. It can have small messages in there rather than a big message. But
I do, with the message and the ending. I was a bit confused because, major spoiler. I think you might have already said it actually. Frida does, I guess, get married. Yeah, I guess gets married to Mr. King, Channing Tatum's character, and she takes over the company. Now, the way I read that, or what it says to me is, ladies, if you get raped, if you get abused by a rich guy, don't worry, marry the guy and take advantage of that. Which, I don't
mm,
know if that is a great message to send to your fellow women, um, or if that's even the message she intended to send.
mm.
But that's how I read it. So either there needs tweaking to be done if that's not the message she intended, or it's not a very great message.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, because I think that when I looked at that ending, I don't see a message in that ending. That's the thing, because the way that the ending comes across is that for the character Frida, for her to make the decision to say that, you know what, you've been drugging me this whole time. I'm going to flip the script. I'm going to start drugging you. And then I'm going to marry you. I'm
Mm.
then going to convince you to make me CEO of your company. So now I've flipped the script. I'm now inflicting trauma on you that you put onto me.
Yes.
But as a way to, I guess, deal with her own trauma, because she's clearly dealing with trauma, and you would have if you'd gone through that experience. But so as a result, I didn't necessarily see a message in that ending. More so, I saw what was a potentially quote unquote cooler or interesting ending on paper, or
Well,
way to put it.
that is a message, isn't it? When you say, um, basically, if you're being abused, then flip the script of abuse your abuser, basically, or
But that's the thing. I don't feel like that is the message that Zoe is trying to give. I'll be shocked if it was.
maybe not
But
trying, but that's basically what we're
yeah,
getting.
that's how as the audience members, like, yeah, we
Yeah.
take it away. I think she probably more intended it for it to be like a more of a interesting slash cooler dynamic ending. But
Mm.
yeah, you do kind of walk away from that going, okay, well, why would you choose this? Would your aim not then be to go to the police or present evidence? Don't get me wrong, she does allude to that during the movie, who would believe us, and I do understand that as well. So yeah, it's a tough one, but
Mm.
overall, I would say that the movie still is worth a watch. I really would. I mean, any final thoughts on Blink Twice before we give it our review?
Yeah, as a final thing, I really liked the symbolism or some was like there was definite like thought put into it, like with the color scheme as well. You had that big mansion in like red and white, and like red and white popped up every once in a while. You know, with her fingernails, for example, the red rabbit, um, and like thoughts like that. I appreciate that Zoe Kravitz actually thought, how can I make this film interesting? What can I have as a through line? And obviously, like the cast was just fucking like the names she got.
Mm.
Like Christian Slater, always good to see Haley Joel Osment. I don't know how often he does things, but it's always fun to watch him. And I think he was pretty good. Um, and yeah, Channing Tatum did quite well. Like I like that he's
Yeah.
very charming. Like he's a charming guy, and
Mm.
I like that he turned out to be the villain because I think he was quite good at that as well.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so there was a lot enough to enjoy, I think.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. Now, yes, overall though, however, we gotta give it our review scores, boyo. So obviously
Yeah,
we have a new slushy system now. So how many ices, excuse me, out of 10 are we gonna give it?
I'm not sure. So I dangle a bit between 6.5 and a 7. But I might take one that has a little bit of that somebody has been sipping on. I might take a used slushy icy. So a 6.5, I think, from me.
Okay, so 6.5 icy out of 10. I am gonna go with a 5.5 icy out of 10. For me, the final 40 minutes are great. The first hour, not as much. However, I would definitely recommend this for any of you psychological thriller mystery fans out there. I think it's worth a watch. But so you're going with a 6.5
Yeah.
and I'm going with a 5.5. So that is our review and our score of Blink Twice. Once again, we are No Drama Just Movies. We release weekly movie reviews, reviewing current movie releases as well as cult classics and any particular big movie topics in the world of movie and potentially TV. Thank you once again, guys, for joining in on our review today of Blink Twice. We are No Drama Just Movies, and we will see you very, very soon. Take care, guys.
Bye.